Welcome back to Mentorship Hour, everyone. I am Stephanie.
And I'm Joanie, and today's session is truly a special one. We're joined by a pioneer in our field, someone whose innovations have shaped the way modern electrologists work. We're thrilled to welcome Clément Beaumont, president of Dectro International, and the visionary behind the Apilus technology that so many of us rely on every day.
In this session, he will walk us through the evolution of electrolysis technology from the earliest Apilus devices to today's cutting-edge platforms. We'll explore the science behind every frequency of electrolysis, clinical research that drives innovation, and what's next for the future of permanent hair removal.
So whether you're an Apilus superfan or just curious about the tech powering your treatments, grab your notebook. This is going to be a conversation full of insight and inspiration. Let's dive in.
So thank you for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure. So, revolution in modern electrolysis. We've been, studying many results, and we did some kind of a research with the collaboration of Dr. Lucie Germain, Daniel Larouche from the LOEX research, which I would like to share a bit of those data that we found. That was performed about 10 years ago, but it's always in effect today. So, introduction of Dectro, 150 years of electrolysis. I'll discuss briefly. Also, the Dectro and Apilus innovations, LOX scientific research, and questions. So this is Dectro International, which was founded in 1978. So the mission of Dectro is to raise the standard of permanent hair removal using electrolysis with combination of design, manufacturing, innovations, and technical support, with also professional training, which we believe is extremely important to reach the best treatment possible. We're also ISO 9001, ISO 13485, which is the ISO medical for devices, and we are MDSAP. MDSAP is recognized Canada and USA, Japan, Brazil, and Australia, and many countries. So first of all, I would like to just share some data that we always take care to look at and to look at the market value, which is estimated to be around $5 billion. That was in 2024. And this study, as they projected through 2032, there will be a 10% annual growth, which is quite intensive. And this is a study only for the USA market. The consumer behavior, which is quite important for us, there's a consistent demand for permanent hair removal, especially during economic downturn as well. So, we got the pandemic in year 2000, 2001, 2002, but electrolysis still grew quite a lot, and we got even more demands for devices and probes. So yes, the market continues to grow even in an economic downturn. So we're in a very good field. So also what is nice to know and see that the beauty clinic are the one that will offer or does offer 50% of the market share, which is provided by beauty clinics. Again, this is quite interesting for us because that's the majority of the market that we are servicing. There's some clinical, medical offices, but most people will look toward the beauty clinic. I'm sorry, I have a cold, and once in a while I love to sneezing. So the electroepilation and laser or IPL treatment will continue to grow and expand in the future. But people are turning to get the most efficient hair removal treatment out in the market. What is interesting also in the survey, we could see what kind of market share is occupied by laser or IPL, and electrolysis as well into the permanent hair removal survey. And we can see that laser is about 65% of the market, but electrolysis occupy over 25%, which is very interesting to know. And for you as professional, that you know that your market will continue to grow. So let's look at some of the evolution, of the market concerning permanent hair removal using electrolysis. Just to make a brief history, in 1875, that's where the electrolysis hair removal came to the market. Actually, it was research from Charles E. Michel, which developed a process of electrolysis using DC galvanic current to treat ingrowing eyelashes. So the method was published in medical journal showing that it was inserting probe or needle. In that time, they were using actually sewing needle to make the insertion into a follicle, then connected to the negative pole of the battery, and the current positive pole was attached to a location near the area that the treatment was performed. And then inserting the needle into the follicle, the current was applied from 3 to 5 minutes, which then created the chemical reaction, which generated the sodium hydroxide chemical reaction, which was able to actually make germinative cell destruction of the follicle and then preventing the hair to grow back. So this, you can see on the left, a small galvanic epilator during the 1900, and they were using battery. So there was with this model, 6 batteries connected. So adding more batteries to the circuit, they were getting more current. We have to think that the current was in microamperes, very low DC current. But then this process was quite long, so that's why in 1917, Paul Cree invented the multiple needle epilator. Again, they were using sewing needles. Eventually, they were then manufacturing screwing type needles that they were using. For each customer, they were using always the same needles because they were not sterilizing the needles. They didn't know about that. And they made machines starting from 6 needle, 8, 10, up to 16 needles that were connected to the machine and the device. The application was still 3 to 5 minutes per hair, and those needles were connected by a set of 4, especially for the 16 needles. So 4 needles were working at the time in the follicle. So driving the current for 3 to 5 minutes. So all needles were inserted fully into the follicle to the full depth of the needle, because the current is dividing the current is divided between the 4 needles that were active at the same time. So to get the same current on each follicle, they were inserting the whole needle into the follicle. This system is still in use in some location in the US, and I have a nice video that I would like to share to show how this process was performed. Now the needle is inserted, as we can see, but there's a big depression of the skin when she's inserting the needle, which shows that the needle is fully in. Then removing the needle from the follicle, she's tweezing the hair. As we know today, this process was not the best and most effective method, as we can see now, because the current didn't have time, as we could see, to release the hair. The hair was pulling on the skin, so this process has some limitation. And especially it was very, very slow and very long. And today, when we are thinking that we never reuse needles, they have to be sterilized or use a disposable needle, which is the process that normally today we perform. So using 16 probes per treatment is quite intensive, and working at microamps, it's outdated today. In 1924, Henry Borgi invented did some study to invent the diathermy short wave. Those units or devices, they were called the spark gap diathermy. I have a cabinet there on the left of 1920. So it's a mechanical plate, two mechanical plate, and were vibrating from positive to negative to make the alternating current to be outputted to the follicle. So inserting the probe into the follicle and having this short wave diathermy, he could treat the hair in less than 1 minute, which was quite more quicker than the galvanic current. So the spark gap diathermy evolved, but eventually the lamp vacuum tubes came to the market in the 30s, which gave the birth to the Cree model, which I show here on the right-hand side, which was using a 500 kilohertz with vacuum tubes. The wave of oscillation, positive and negative, was quicker, faster, more accurate. So from the 1940s to the 1960s, the Cree Company in New York popularized the high-frequency epilators, and they actually opened a lot of clinic doing straight high-frequency epilation, and they were quite successful. So that made the multi-needle not very popular in that time, and the high frequency became the treatment to be the most effective and the quickest possible, because few seconds was needed to treat the hair with the high frequency, which instead of creating a chemical reaction, that high frequency is creating frictions in the follicle, like a microwave cooking the follicle and then, preventing the hair to grow back. We have a small video that was performed with Dr. Schuster's that show a slow thermolysis process. Every time you see the light changing with some flashes there, it's, we can see that the skin is shrinking and the hair follicle, where we see that there's a probe inside, and the hair follicle is shrinked and heated and cooked in the follicle. So that's how it was proven by Dr. Henry Borgi that high frequency was also an effective way to remove permanently hair.
When it comes to top-tier machines, look no further than Aesthetic Systems. They offer the latest in technology for both the electrology and aesthetics industry. Their machines, furniture, and more are known for reliability and precision, helping the professionals deliver the best results to their clients. Stay ahead of the curve with Aesthetic Systems' innovative tools. You can learn more about them at aestheticsystems.com. That's aestheticsystems.com.
Then in 1945, Arthur Winkle, which was a GE engineer, and Henry St. Pierre, which was an electrologist, they both developed the blend technique. So they thought, why don't we take the advantage of the combined current galvanic and mix it with the short wave? Combining both current, we should be able to remove hair in a successful way and to be quicker and more efficient. So that's why they patented the blend in 1945. And then most epilators that came to the market had three options: electrolysis, straight galvanic, thermolysis, shortwave, and blend, which was the combination of both current. Those machines were using 2-foot pedal. So the lady was able, busy with 2-foot pedal, to have some shortwave, some galvanic, and working with two-handed technique, because when they were applying the electrolysis at 3 to 5 minutes per hair, the two-handed technique was the most popular method to try and test the hair while the hair was treated with the slow galvanic current. So sometimes they could epilate the hair before 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes because the hair would release. So the two-handed technique was the most popular method. When the blend arrived, they were still using the two-handed technique to try to test the hair while the thermolysis was applied. At the beginning, they were testing the hair on thermolysis until the thermolysis would release the hair, and then added the galvanic, which Arthur Inkel created the unit of light to determine how much current and time, DC current and time, I would apply to the hair to create that chemical reaction that will fill up the follicle. So we know today that 20, 40, 60, 80 unit of light would be sufficient to destroy fine, medium, and coarse hair. Evan Hoffman innovated because he had switch programs, and the lady was holding onto the machines when they were applying the blend technique. Further down in the 70s, Dectro launched the first Electropil 100, which was a 3 megahertz device, so quicker than 500 kilohertz. 500 kilohertz is 0.5 megahertz. 3 megahertz was much quicker and faster. So we were able to treat a hair under around 1/10 of a second. I'm sorry. So that was decreased quite a bit. So the epilator was adjusting 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and it was quicker to epilate. In the 1980s, there was some introduction with Dectro. We incorporated the 1356 megahertz because there was new regulation concerning the ISM frequencies that were allowed or dictated to be used for applications such as medical application, industrial, or ISM, so industrial, scientific, and medical application. So this enabled Dectro came to market in 1980 with the Electropil 1356 megahertz and an auto blend, meaning with only 1-foot pedal, we could treat galvanic and blend and thermolysis together, making a combination, and then, ease the blend application. In 1989, when we purchased the company, me and my partner, Denis, we were from computer business. So we decided to integrate computerized epilation into our device. That's when we've created the computerized Apilus design, and with multiple functions, which is the first Apilus that we show on the left-hand side. And then there's other models that came further down the road available to the market. So Dectro was the first company to introduce the micro flash. We wanted to name the flash which was the 100th of a second. Micro, it's 100 times quicker, so it's the 1,000th of a second. So then we also integrated custom program for body area, because we knew that the upper lip hair doesn't grow as deep as much as the bikini line or underarm or other body area. And the moisture level content of the body area is also very important. So that's why we've created programs per body area. And then we came to the market with new techniques, easy blend application called the Omni blend, the pulsing blend with tolerance test, ULT. So we were able to compute the unit of light that the device would be programmed to. Also compute the energy level. This is an innovation of Dectro. The energy level is the calculation of time and intensity of thermolysis to make a chart which will enable the electrologist to understand if they can epilate a hair with a 250, 500, or 800 unit of light. EL, I'm sorry, EL for energy level of thermolysis. So that's again the same as the UL, a chart to guide the operator to find out what is the best setting possible so that they don't overtreat the area. And then in 1993, Apilus SM500 came to the market with 500 clients file. That machine had a memory card. We were able to store the customer name, and we're calculating how many hair were treated, how many time it took, and even compute the charge on the Apilus devices. From those years, in 2000, Dectro came with the second generation of Apilus. I'm sorry again. That you're going to have to cut off, Joanie.
No problem.
On the evolution of Apilus family for the over 25 years, the second generation came in 1999. So it was 10 years after the first model introduction in 1989. So that was the Clio, a small Clio, a smart set with smart set setting, a junior, senior. We called it the Junior Plus because we had more programs, more power. The Senior 2, which had more power. And then in 2005, the first Platinum 27 megahertz came to the market. So there was two models then, the Pure and the Pro, as the same at the XL today. The Pure was strictly thermolysis with 27 megahertz and programmed specifically for 27 megahertz. And the Platinum Pro was with the memory card to store customer files and even print out receipt on the device and the machine. Then it's in 2011 that the first Senior 3G, Junior 3G came to the market, and a new little Clio by Apilus. The new little Clio by Apilus, it's for new market. We sell those in India, Turkey, where they don't have much money. They cannot afford medium-sized devices as junior, senior, and most of the time they don't have the investment to get some XL. But then in 2014, from 2005 to 2014, we came with the second generation of 27 megahertz. Actually, we went a little bit higher at 27.12 because that's the middle frequency that we're allowed to use. 27 was a little bit off, but it's always inside that regulation. But the 27.12 is right in the center of the regulation of that frequency wavelength. So I don't want to spend too much time with the application of the junior and senior, but just to show you very quickly, the junior has a flash mode modality, so meaning in hundreds of seconds, so 0.05 would be 500 of a second. So we epilate the hair in a quick manner because the power of the device is quite important. 82% is not the maximum power. We go from 0 to 100. So at 0.5, 82%, we can remove a hair on the chin type 2. So that's quite fast and quick. Some other device on the market, they start at 0.20 seconds. So that's 0.2. It's similar to the Electropil 100 we had 20 years ago. So we don't work with those long pulse timing anymore. We work with quick. Yes.
Quick question that I think is kind of interesting, but can you talk a little bit about what some of the biggest challenges or breakthroughs were when you were trying to introduce faster frequencies? So what changes with the machines?
Yeah, what changes? I don't want to give us our secrets, but first of all, we have to have a very precise frequency output. 1356 megahertz is quick enough to have so many waves available that we can make that friction quicker and faster so we can coagulate in a quicker manner. It's like if I use a microwave, but microwave today, they're working at 2.4 gigahertz. Gigahertz is quite much quicker frequency and waves. So within few seconds or hundreds of seconds, you will create that heat that you're looking for to cook the area. So first of all, 1356 megahertz is a fast enough frequency to deliver those maximum waves within a second. Because if you want to work in a second, less than a second, if you don't have as much waves, you want to have time to make that vibration to create heat. That's one thing. The other thing, to program, when we created the first Apilus in 1989, we needed a microprocessor. So we integrated 8-bit microprocessor to be able to work in hundreds of seconds, because that microprocessor is the one that will count very precisely. If you have 0.05, you're going to get a precise 0.05. In those years, we were using an 8-bit microprocessor in 1989. So that's another item that is very important, to have quick, fast timing and precise timing with as many waves as possible. Then power. Power, when you buy transistors and you manufacture an electrolysis device, you have to have power there. Because if you say, oh, I would like to have just 1,000 of a second, how much heat can you create at 1,000 of a second? Then if you don't have enough power, then you won't do anything. Power is like your car. If you have a 4-cylinder car and you try to climb a big hill, you start at the bottom of the hill at 100 miles an hour, let's say. I'll speak in miles. Even with the 4-cylinder, just to reach at 100 miles an hour, it's going to take time because the engine is not strong enough. The engine is when you talk about electrolysis device, it's the power transistor that I will use. How much will I pay for that power transistor? If I have a weak power transistor, I'll never get enough power to coagulate anything. So I need some power. I need to deliver some watts of power with that transistor. So if I use a 4-cylinder and I'm driving, I reach 100 miles an hour, then I'm climbing a hill. How much will I lose speed by the time I reach the surface? I might get to the surface at 50 miles an hour if I have only a 4-cylinder with not much power. If you have a 6-cylinder, you'll get quicker. You start at the bottom at 100 miles an hour, but you might get at the top of the hill at 75 miles an hour because you have weight to carry and to drive up to the hill. If you have an 8-engine full blast, and then you get to the bottom of the hill at 100, and you press on the pedal when you climb up, you can reach 120 at the top of the hill. That's power. Okay? So all this are connected together because the quickest I want to work, the more coagulation I will get in a very quick and fast manner. So that's how Apilus were created and built, with enough power to be driven with the quality of the pulse that we are able to deliver So when you look at the programs of Apilus, we never propose a program at 0.20, 0.25, and up to 1 second. Never. That will be too intense, or we will create too much damage inside the follicle. We don't want to do that, because as you know, you'll see some videos further down my presentation. When we apply the thermolysis on the probe, we have the tip effect first. That's how it starts. So you start with that tip effect because the current is driven at the tip of that probe. That's the probe that you use when you work with electrolysis at 1356 megahertz. This is like your antenna. You're transmitting information, which is a radio wave, 1356 megahertz, to an antenna, which expelled from the tip of the antenna to the area that is trying to address. So that's how it works. So the quickest timing I have and the more power I can get, I can create more or less damage to that tip area, because that's how the current will be delivered on that probe. Okay? But you'll see further down some videos that shows this process. Okay? Now, if I look at the senior 3G is 25% more powerful than the junior. That's why we were able to come up with the time of pulse 0.038 for a chin 54. So quicker timing, faster, coarser hair, and I can reduce the power because now it's very intense at the tip of the probe. I have more power at the tip of my probe, so I can do it in a shorter time. So I get all the benefit. But yes, your insertion has to be accurate, because if you're not accurate and you bypass the papilla, you're in a hypodermis area, it doesn't do anything. You're going to twist the hair the same as the multi-needle that we've seen on the video. So this is important, the quality of insertion, which comes after training. That's how you will get that quality of insertion after so many hours of training. The 54I that we see on the screen here for the chin, I means that the Apilus Senior has pre-programmed setting for insulated probes. So yes, since we have insulation on the surface of the probe, the tip is uncovered, it's not insulated. So that power that I was able to deliver is more concentrated at the tip now. So even then, when it's insulated, I can reduce, slightly the intensity and my timing as well. So I will have a quicker and faster, but more efficient treatment with the insulated probe. And that, again, I have some videos showing the process that you can get when you're working with the insulated probe. So the Senior 3G has 1080 programs when we make that calculation, and we have new techniques that appeared onto that device, which we call it the IMPACT. IMPACT is insulated probe programs, multiplex, and multi-blend. A multiplex is a combination of thermolysis together. Yes, I can work with long timing now, 1.6 seconds, but only 12%, very low. I want just to cover the follicle to become warmer, more porous. When you have porosity, you create moisture. When you create moisture, better conductibility. So that 0.038, 78%, will even be more efficient now at the base of that follicle, because I've created that little low, very slow, high frequency pre-treatment. So it's kind of a blend of thermolysis with the multiplex. And then in this case, we have 2 pulses. So and I can distribute those 2 pulses at the location I wish to apply it. Again, that's after having a good training, because if you don't have a good training, you can deliver that pulse anywhere in that follicle, but strategically, you need to have those two pulses at the bulge and bulb area. So that's how you should treat the double pulse, or even sometimes some people will work with three pulses at different location in that follicle. So that's some of the Apilus technology. That is the 1356 megahertz.
Heading to the Golden State, California Electrology Academy offers an immersive learning experience that prepares students for national certification as well as many states with reciprocity to California's licensing exams. Led by Joanie and Joanne Gonella, they bring decades of quality services and education. CEA offers flexible schedules, open enrollment, and a supportive learning environment, making them a perfect place to start your electrology journey. Be sure to check them out for cutting-edge education right in sunny Southern California. And visit electrologyacademy.com. That's electrologyacademy.com.
Now, if we look at the 27 megahertz, because it's important to show that the 27 megahertz has its place in the market. And why? Just as after I explained the microwave, why do we work at 2.4 gigahertz? Because it's quicker, faster, and then we can cook food in a quicker manner. So 27 megahertz will bring that wave to be twice as fast as the 1356 megahertz. If I'm calculating from the first epilator, like the first one at 0.5 megahertz, it will be 54 times faster at 27.12 megahertz than the first device Cree at 500 kilohertz. So that's why we have those multiple pulses, which will make the, moisture content inside that follicle to boil rapidly and to cook the hair follicle. Again, the 27 megahertz will also have a pinpointed effect, more pinpointed effect than the 1356 and then the 6.78. So again, you benefit from that tip effect of the 27 megahertz. And that's why, since we doubled the frequency of the 27.12 megahertz from 1356, if you take 1356, multiply it by 2, you get 27.12. So that's why we call that modality pico flash. We can keep the same name, micro, because micro is at 1356. Now we double that frequency. That's why we called it the pico flash.
Do you think that there would ever be a machine that will work at, what's the next frequency?
45. Wait,
No,
Yeah.
40.68.
40.6.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be
Possibly.
possible?
It will be possible, but then it becomes more difficult to drive that frequency up to the wire because we have to work with shielded wire. If you don't have that good shield to protect the emission of frequency, it means that you're disturbing the environment. So that's why you have that shield. The shield means that it's a metal, torso the metal around the driving signal in the middle, in the center, which is driven only to the probe, to the tip.
So with that in mind, when you were saying like it's possible for someone that displacement, like when they're working and immobilizing the filament in the follicle, would you then be able to drive that point to the right location if you were?
Yeah, when we developed the platinum, we were looking at a very well shielded wire because the frequency was quicker and faster, twice as fast. So we had to take a wire of 75 ohm instead of a 50 ohm that we're using for a 1356. That's why we don't have that same wire from the senior and junior compared to the XL. The XL is 27.12, so the impedance of the wire is different because we have to protect that signal in the inner core of the frequency. Then when we selected the wire, we were looking to a very flexible wire because if the wire is fat, we have a HD wire that we came into the market, which is thicker and bigger to work with. But it's not easy. It's not everybody that likes to work with a fatter cable. But at 4068, we have to make more protection and to have a higher insulation. So we don't know yet. We never did the study about which kind of wire, insulated wire, we will need for that 4068. So that's another, study that we have to make. And also how fast and how much power can be driven through that wire. And the higher the frequency is, the more we lose more power into the wire. So it means that we have to drive more current on a 27.12 megahertz than on a 13.56 megahertz. To have the same result, if we don't drive more current into the 27 megahertz, it means that we will have less power, much more less power. Like we can see, if you have a device that is at 678, if they try to bring it up at 27.12, the power will be quite low, very low, because especially if they use the same wire, which shouldn't be the case, because the wire has to be matched with the frequency that you're using. So if it's not matched, you're going to even lose more power. So if that match is quite important, that's an electronic knowledge that, we have to, and there's some study that has to be made and calculation, which will bring the maximum power possible at the end of that probe.
Could you use the 27 megahertz wire on a 13.56? Let's say like they were the same. Like, can you go down? You can't go up, but so either way, it doesn't work.
Just to explain, let me see if I have another. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. That you'll understand a little bit better what I mean. A 13.56 megahertz, now I drove in the 6.78. How many waves of 678 that is driving my probe on the left-hand side, slow alternating positive and negative pulses current. And on the right, 27.12. So this is a diagram explain exactly how many waves you're going to get at 678 compared to a 27.12. So those molecules of water and salt, or water and moisture in the follicle, they have electrons, rotating around the nucleus, and those are negatively charged. So every time you will change the polarity, positive, negative, you're making those molecules to vibrate like this. So if you have not many changes in the wave, it will take a long time to cook. It's like your heater or your stove. You turn it at low and you wait and wait until the water eventually will boil. But on the other case, 27.12, you will turn it at high, and then you will see the water boiling much quicker and faster because you have more heat process that will make the water to be strong. Now, the wave of 27.12 is 11 meters long. What it means, the world standard of, I will go back here, the world standard ISM frequency. Why do they did this? This is worldwide recognition. The 13.56, 27.12, 2.4 gigahertz, all frequencies that we're using for something else than music, transmission of signals, radio waves, then they were reserved for specific application, as they call it, the scientific, medical, and industrial application, ISM, industrial, scientific, medical. So those frequencies are very important. This is 678, but the 678 in some countries, they have limitation. They don't consider it as an ISM in some countries, but in US, Canada, they do consider it as a radio wave. But in some other countries, it's used for something else, maybe for sea. They will transmit some signal, so they can use that frequency for something else. So those frequencies are strictly used for our application or scientific or industrial. Now, the wavelength, that wave that you see, you can see my finger or, my wave hand now. That wavelength is 11 meters long. You know how long is 11 meters? You multiply by 3.3 feet. So that's 33, 34, 35 feet long. That's the length of your 27.12, 11 meters. If I go down to the 13.56, 13.56 is divided the 27 by 2. So we have 22 meters long at 13.56. So the wave is very long. So it's a very long wave that is. So when we send that wave to your probe, at the tip of that probe, I don't want the wave to be in the center, because at the center, when it crosses, the wave, when it crosses the 0 point, at that level, you have 0 volts. You have no power. If it goes to one side at, 100 volts, then it goes back to the other side at minus 100 volts. Then you're going to have a 200 volts differentiation between the plus and the minus. So that comes to the point where you have to understand that if at the end of your probe, when I say the cable that we're using has to be balanced with the frequency and the impedance of the skin, of the element that I want to treat. That's the impedance. Like the body, the skin, it's not a conductor. It's not a good conductor. It's the tissue that I want to cook. So that has an impedance. My cable has an impedance. So when I'm driving, I want that wave to be at the maximum height at the end of the cable. So if I'm looking at the 13.56 megahertz, which has 22 meters long, which is quite long, 22 meters times 3, so it's over 50 feet, 60, 70 feet long, 75 feet long. It's quite long. That end of that pulse, I want that pulse to be at the maximum tip level, so that when I shift my power to positive and negative, then I get my full power of that frequency. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but that's very important. Because that's very important, because if you're in the middle of that wave, you'll never get 100% efficiency of the current that you are driving out. Because if your wire is cut, like if you take your probe holder now, you break it, you cut it, so I will resolder it, and you remove, a kind of a length. But, we give you a wire, when we produce the wire, they're about 6 feet long. But you know that the wave at 13.56 megahertz is 22 meters. So that's 75 feet long. So we have a small number that we calculate with the circuit, at which level am I, and inside we have some wires as well. And then we come out and then we calculate the length. So we make sure that we are at the full potential level of that frequency. That's how we have to create the device to get maximum power. And then we're able to use that power to deliver and drive my my application as quick as possible with my computer, my microprocessor, and so on. So the 27 megahertz, the wave is 11 meter. So we have to have that full potential at the end of the tip of the probe. So that's how calculated. That's how we calculate to mathematically know how much adjustment and calibration I have to make inside my circuitry. Because my circuitry, I can drive it to have that full potential at the end of that wire that I will check on my oscilloscope, and I can see it on the scope because I can see the full potential power. So that's how they have to be adjusted. So at 678, again, double the length. Instead of 22 meters, now you're at 44 meters, which is 130 feet, 50 feet long before you get to that full potential level that you, and it, the waves takes more time to move up and down because it's very, very long. So that's very important when you create an epilator. So if we work at 40.68, all this has to be recomputed and recalculated so that we get that maximum power. And then we have to find the right wire that we're able to find in the market, shielded wire, so that we can get the maximum power possible. Again, there's another issue which is quite important, is the impedance of what you're treating. Impedance is resistance, is the skin resistance. When you're applying a probe, you're inserting the probe in the follicle, you have tissue, you're working with the tissue. So it's not a metal conductor, it's a tissue with moisture, no moisture, moisture gradient, which vary according to the body area. So this is quite difficult to know exactly what is the impedance. But we know after all the study that we performed, when we came out with the 27.12, that the impedance of the skin is much higher. What it means, it's like my hill that I need to drive the car up. Instead of having a hill which is like this, the hill will be 3 times more stiff to climb because the skin resistance is preventing the high frequency to travel through the skin. The skin is not as more porous. I could explain that the skin is much more porous at 6.78. So the wave will penetrate deeper and will spread it wider easily on the skin compared to a 27.12, because now the skin is kind of thicker, more difficult to penetrate. I can just, as an analogy, explain that, a water drop you see on the lake or on water, you drop a drop of water, you'll see those waves spreading. So that's the penetration of the waves which affect the other molecules. Now, if you have a higher frequency, when we apply that pulse will be more intense, very close to the impact of the 27 megahertz, and will have more difficulty to drive out and to diffuse to the other area. So that's why very often people will say, oh, I have less skin reaction on the surface. Yes, because it will be more difficult to drive up to the skin surface because the skin is more compact. It's more difficult for the wave to penetrate, and it will be more intense close to the probe. So it will have more difficulty to diffuse deeper into that follicle, which is good for the application that we're looking to address, because we don't want to destroy larger than 200 microns, 250 microns. This is very, very short, shallow. The follicle is not very big and large. It's just the epidermal that grows down, and you have that follicle inside. So all the surrounding tissue, which is the epidermal layer surrounding the hair, will be 200 microns, 250. So having a pulse diffusing larger than that, there's no need. That's not where the cells are located. Stem cells are located within that hair follicle shaft and tissue, the epidermal layer, which surrounding the inner root sheet, outer root sheet, and the papilla area, and the bulge area. So just to show with the frequency, Slower frequency, higher, quicker, faster. So you have quicker, faster pulse, positive, negative. Then they have to be well balanced. You have to have the right cable to address it, so that we get that maximum peak power at the tip of that probe. That's how you're going to get the best result possible, and the more power that you need to coagulate the area. We did a quick study with radio frequency heating dissipation. So we had the 27.12 megahertz on the first top tissue. We applied it on the skin surface. Actually, it's not skin, it's meat. So we cooked it, and you can see the white is more condensed, concentrated. Yellow is not diffusing as much compared than the lower frequency, which we used 13.56. If we were using 6.78, the result would have been different. Maybe there would be a little bit of white in the center, then more red, more yellow, more deeper and larger in the area. And the pulse could be longer, so that you can see exactly what's going on. So the higher frequency, the quicker and the faster coagulation you will get. And that's from that knowledge that we've created all the different programs on the Excel. That's why we have the Pico Flash. We know we have power, we have quick timing. So that tiny hair on the upper lip here, right here, very tiny, not very shallow. Then we suggest at 0.009 seconds. We have a program that exactly is set at 0.009. And that hair will be released and fly out without sensation to the client. Why? Because it's only a tiny tip effect that the client will feel, not enough to be discomfortable. So that's why that Pico Flash was created and integrated with the Excel. I don't know if you want me to continue with all the modalities, because I'm sure you've been through those very often. Did you want to ask questions? Because it's
Yeah,
hard.
I think so. I think that'd be great. We had a lot of information there, so we can definitely
Yeah.
go to some of the questions that we have.
Because all these, you can
Mhm.
address them, and yeah.
Of course.
And we can always have you back and do a deep dive into some of the questions that this lecture generated, so that the next time you're here with us, we can give you kind of a more unique experience to even then. Sounds right. Joanie, do you
So
I hope it's not too technical what I've explained.
I
You
like
want
it.
to be, yeah.
Yeah, we're here for this. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's how it works. That's how it works. So it's quite complex, but it has to be performed the right way, so that you get the
Right.
most powerful possible, and also stable. We don't want that power to wave up and down and drop and come back, and there's no need for that. You need some efficient power to be applied in short timing, quick timing, and also use insulated probe. Today, that's also the secret. You always have to use insulated probe, because you're going to have that benefit of pinpoint tip effect of the insulated probe.
We have some commentary from the group that they all appreciated the science, liked it a lot. It's been great. Love the analogies.
Should I stop sharing?
Sure,
yeah.
if you want. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just
Where do I stop sharing now? I'm sorry. Okay. Escape. Stop sharing.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
We have all the hits.
So
we just had there was a conversation that happened, let's say about, I say recent, it's an Italian recent, like it was 3 to 6 months ago, where someone was talking about that they had a cord broken, and they're like, can I just cut the cord? And
cut the cord.
Yeah. I was like, and then reaffix the end. And I'm like, no, because when that energy flows, it no longer flows at the rate it did before. And so it's one of those things that's like, you can't just kind of cut your cord and call it a day.
Because you're going to change that wave, and then you won't be at the maximum power of your wave. You will lose power, and then it won't work. well.
So the question that they then followed up with in that space, and it kind of made me giggle, but I didn't have a good way to answer it, other than like sometimes it's like how it's created. But they said, well, then why is it that you can buy a 68-inch cord or a 72 for the same machine, and then a small probe holder pen and a short and a regular? And I was like, it is back down to the manufacturing of it. So
But the short and the longer, the coaxial cable is going down to that same distance.
same length, yes.
It's just the pen, which is shorter, and it doesn't change the wire itself.
Yeah, that's what I said in my response to them. I was like, "It's your pet is what is shorter."
Right, so yeah, shorter the pen only, and the wire is always the same length, because even if the pen is longer, it drives through and reach the tip of the shank.
Yeah.
So it's shielded. Your pen is shielded inside.
Okay.
That's how it's built, and that pen is. It's important that you cannot cut it and then lose some length. And it's not true that you can buy a wire at 72 inches or 68 inches. It's not true unless you buy it from a third party. They don't even know what impedance that we have to get on our device. So you're going to get, a tool which is not appropriate for the machine that you're working with.
And then your warranty is null and void, right?
Yeah, warranty is not, yeah.
What do you think about wrapping the cord around your wrist to keep the tension off the cord instead of putting it around your neck? This is kind of a general question.
Yeah, I like to do this also because I have a tick, but this, what I just drove when I'm making there, this is a coil. So we have many of these in the machine to drive and to be able to get to that maximum wave as well at the end of it. So these are used to actually balance my impedance, and that makes a coil. A coil is generating or preventing output. It may work in both ways. It depends how it's made. So especially when it's on top of each other, then it becomes a kind of a amplifier, but you'll never know how much it will create at the end of it, because you won't connect it to the scope and know exactly. So we prefer to keep the wires straight, so you don't have that interference. This is an interference. When we have equipment to test the output, and we always stretch the wire straight when we make the test, because if we curl it a lot, we will see some variation, and we don't want to see variation.
That's wonderful.
Clément, thank you so much for joining us today and giving us this rare look behind the curtain of one of the most influential companies in electrology.
Your passion for advancing this field is undeniable, and we're so grateful for your shared time and your story with our Mentorship Hour community.
To our listeners, if you want to learn more about Dectro's technology, training opportunities, or the latest Apilus system, make sure to check out dectro.com or connect with them on social media.
And always, thank you for being part of the conversation. We'll see you next time on Mentorship Hour, where education, technology, care go hand in hand.